listening to an audio article by the Common Constitutionalist. Today's article is entitled, "Is Black Liberation Theology Alive and Well in Cincinnati?" The Daily Wire posted an article Monday explaining that one Black Lives Matter group has separated itself because they claim that the leaders of the movement actually profit from the, quote, deaths of black people, unquote. The group in question is Black Lives Matter Cincinnati, at least that's what they used to be known as. So angered and disillusioned by the national BLM leadership, they've changed their name to UBLMWACABL, or, unlike BLM, we actually care about black lives. Nah, I'm just kidding. They changed it to Mass Action for Black Liberation. The acronym would, of course, be MABL, M-A-B-L. Maybe this is a shout-out to black and lesbian activist Mabel Hampton. That way the group could just swap out liberation with lesbian when it suits them without having to change their signage. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm going to go with the latter. Anyway, rather than further discuss what the Daily Wire has already covered, I'd like to concentrate on their new name. We all know Black Lives Matter, as does every life. Although don't say this at a Democrat rally or you'll be booed off the stage like poor old Martin O'Malley during his short-lived Democrat presidential campaign. Yet explaining the name change on their own website, MABL explains that, quote, "We recognize that our idea of the type of movement necessary to win black liberation was at odds with the national body and its directives," unquote. So may I ask the obvious, exactly which blacks in America are still yet to be emancipated? Where are these blacks who are still being held in bondage? The answer is nowhere, of course. But despite their worrisome mission statement, which appears to be, quote, "building a revolutionary movement for black liberation," unquote, I understand their misgivings over what they see as a takeover of the movement by smarmy political operatives. These racial warriors are upset that the national movement, quote, "capitalized off of a nameless groundswell of resistance sweeping the nation, branded it as their own, and profited from the deaths of black men and women around the country without seriously engaging," unquote. Simply put, they don't believe that the capitalizers are truly down for the struggle. I get it. If I were a true believer, I'd be upset as I witnessed the co-opting of the movement by a bunch of charlatans. However, I can't be sympathetic as I see this liberation movement for what it really is. The Reverend Wright brand of black liberation theology, which encourages a victim mentality among blacks. As we see, this victimology is an excuse for a lack of effort, criminal behavior, and failure in general. In other words, it's always someone else's fault, and the go-to excuse is systematic racism. As evidence, consider this quote by Dr. Dwight Hopkins, a black liberation theologian teaching at the University of Chicago Divinity School. Quote, "People are poor because they are victim of others," unquote. Classic victimology. Although the Black Lives Matter movement did make a splash, it is relatively harmless compared to true believing black liberators and separatists like MABL. These are the groups we must be mindful of as their leaders plant seeds of resentment, hatred, and violence toward their supposed oppressors, much as did their predecessors, the Black Panthers of the 60s. Thank you for listening.